Hello and welcome back. This is the 2021 Texas All-Region Etudes, number 38, part 3. We're into the middle of the composition, and as you can see by looking at it, a lot of it is not in the home key, and that's the section we're going to be looking at today, the material that's not in the home key of B major. Measures 17 through 24 are a contrasting section in a different key from the home key of B major. These measures are generally thought of as a long crescendo from piano to double forte. Now let's begin by reviewing the rhythms and counting that we're going to be using this section. Follow along with me and then count them on your own. We'll leave the grace notes out. 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, a 1, 2, a 3, 4, a 1, pull at 2, a 3, and 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Our first global concept is to recognize that the key of this section is E major. Only the last couple of measures are in the key of B major. So you look at the very beginning and you notice it starts with a grace note and then E. All the way up to the crescendo, only the last two bars are back in the key of B major. So let's review the E major scale. E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, left D sharp, E natural. There's our E scale in review. One of the odd little details that is inconsistent in this etude are the markings of staccatos, but not in other places. So let's look in measure 17. Right away, we see staccatos on 16th notes. I think in theory that could be played. Let's try it at a slow tempo. Okay, at a slow tempo, you can tell a staccato. But what about something near the marked tempo? You'll notice, really the staccato is meaningless on the 16th note. My suggestion to all students, don't try it. When you play it at tempo, the listener is not going to be able to tell the difference. Now let's take a look at the legato line in the middle of 17 going to 18. We have G sharp, E, C sharp, D sharp, B, C sharp. Let's practice first all of those slurred. Here's the example where you'll have to play D sharp on the left side. Now, if you see the squiggly line above me and to my left, you'll notice that that's a reminder to me to use vibrato throughout. So now I'll try it with the articulation and some vibrato. Practice many times slowly and then only gradually speed up. Now within 17-18, once you've learned the technique, then we can begin to shape a phrase that's implied by the motion of the line and the contour of the line. You'll notice I penciled in parentheses a crescendo and then a diminuendo. The idea being that you give it a little bit of phrase shaping throughout this half of the phrase. Now I've over-exaggerated it quite a bit. So within the city limits of piano, you might want to crescendo to mezzo piano on the C sharp, and then at the downbeat of 19, back to piano again. Now let's look at measures 19 and 20. 19 has a crescendo and 20 also has a crescendo. This again is kind of an editorial mistake. It should be one long crescendo to forte. We look at the skeleton of that passage and we have E, F sharp, G sharp, F sharp, G sharp. The skeleton then will sound like this. Keep the skeleton in mind as you crescendo slowly to forte. Now let's look at another problem with editorial content with staccatos. In the middle of measure 20, there's the C sharp with a B natural marked staccato. Now, practice slowly, I could see this occurring. And you see it's very easy to make the staccato stand out. But what about when we play it a little bit faster? You'll notice the appearance of staccato to the ear is gone on a 16th note at a fast tempo. Just like measure 17, I urge the student, don't worry about playing staccato there. Just tongue the note. At a fast tempo, the listener cannot tell the difference. So now let's look at measures 21, 22, and 25 for comparison. You'll notice the 16th notes in those measures have no staccatos. So there's a real inconsistency within this section. And the best interpretation given style and consistency is no staccatos on the 16th notes. We have performed measures 21 and 22 like this. Now let's look at the peak of this section as far as the goal note or the peak note as far as volume is concerned. It's absolutely going to be that D sharp, isn't it? So the first thing let's do is play that arpeggio, F sharp, B, D sharp, and let's play it an octave lower so we can get used to the dynamic peak. I really don't think personally about a volume being double F. I only want to play within my control box what is my best sound. And with that in mind, whatever is a comfortable loud sound that I can make with a really good tone, that's my double F. Now let's take a look at this unusual note, especially occurring at the end of an arpeggio at the beginning of measure 23. D sharp 6, the high D sharp on the oboe. The typical fingering for it is done like this. Half hole, second finger, third finger of the left hand, and the low B natural key, the second and third fingers of the right hand, no octave key. It articulates very, very well. It's relatively in tune. Some students, though, may find an alternative fingering to be better for you, and here's the alternative fingering. You just finished high B. We're going to switch to 2-3 left hand, 2-3 right hand. This has a couple of advantages as far as clean technique is concerned. You don't have to involve the little finger hunting around for the low D sharp, for the low B key. If we do it that way, it will sound and look like this. Some instruments, reeds, and players can play the D sharp better. On this instrument, it plays really loud. I don't have to try to play it loud. It has a slightly different intonation than the normal fingering. For advanced players, you will find that this alternate fingering of 2-3, 2-3 is excellent for slurring upward to the D sharp 6. Now let's look at measures 23 and 24, the peak of this section, as far as dynamics are concerned. It's all marked double F, but I wonder, what is the effect to the ear if we play all of that double F? Well, let's listen to it. To me, I can play it all at one volume, but it doesn't sound musical to have this kind of an effect all at the same volume. A more musical effect would be to taper a little bit off the double F at the end. When we do that taper, this is what happens. The effect is still strong, but it's clear to the ear this is not the end of the composition. Finally, the approach to the last note of this section. It's a half note, and students will tend to cheat it. The longer they practice it, the more days they practice it, the more they're going to cheat it to get a big breath in. That's not a good idea. Always think about this last note as a full value note, 2 full counts. That has the added problem, of course. You played the note the full value, but you're not going to get a huge chance to breathe. Probably you're not going to get a big chance to go out and in. So consider carefully how you want to pace the breath here. But a 2-count note, the judges will expect a full note as written on the page. As I've remarked before in previous videos, your first consideration should be tone quality, not speed of technique. A pleasant sound is always going to stick out more in your judge's ear. So to start off with, practice very slowly, focusing on tone. And work daily on a couple of measures focusing on tone, and then slowly increase tempo. By now you've heard me talk about in parts 1 and 2 about the value of journaling. Remember, keep with the journal. It will be a valuable resource to track your progress from the beginning of practicing these etudes for the all-region audition until the audition itself. It will also be a great idea to see which etude you can play better and which etudes or etude you may have trouble with. Obviously, the one that is giving you the most trouble, that's the one you will spend the most time practicing. This is the end of part 3.